The Whispering Hospital. The wind howled through the broken windows of the abandoned San Rafael Psychiatric Hospital. The massive structure, long forgotten by time, loomed over the edge of town like a decaying giant, its once pristine walls now covered in vines and grime. The townspeople avoided it, speaking in hushed whispers whenever it came up in conversation. They called it cursed. I never believed in curses. I was a journalist, driven by facts and logic. But what I experienced inside that hospital shattered everything I thought I knew about reality. I arrived at San Rafael as part of a documentary crew investigating local urban legends. There were 4 of us: Andres, our cameraman, Valeria, a historian, Sofia, a paranormal expert, and me, Matthias, the writer. Our goal was simple: uncover the truth behind the legend of the Whispering Hospital. The stories we had gathered were chilling. Former patients spoke of voices murmuring in the dead of night, calling their names, whispering secrets that no one should know. Some believed the voices belonged to the lost souls of the hospital, patients who had died in torment, their spirits lingering within the walls. We arrived just before sunset. The sky burned orange and red, casting long shadows that made the hospital seem even more menacing. The front entrance was barricaded with rotting wood, but Andres found a side window that had been shattered long ago. As soon as we stepped inside, an overwhelming stench of decay hit us. It was the scent of mold, rusted metal, and something else, something sickly sweet, like spoiled meat. The air was thick, suffocating, as if the walls themselves were breathing around us. Valeria flipped through her notes, her voice echoing in the vast emptiness. San Rafael opened more than a century ago as a facility for the mentally ill. Over time, it gained a sinister reputation. Patients who were deemed incurable were subjected to brutal treatments, lobotomies, electroshock therapy, and even solitary confinement for months. Some patients disappeared entirely, their records erased, as if they had never existed. Andres scoffed. Sounds like every other haunted place we've visited. The real horror is how people were treated back then. I agreed. There was no such thing as ghosts. What people called hauntings were just stories passed down, twisted with time. But still, something about this place felt wrong. We moved deeper into the hospital. The long corridors were lined with rusted gurneys and overturned wheelchairs, their wheels frozen in time. Faded murals peeled off the walls, their once bright colors swallowed by darkness. Then, Sofia stopped suddenly. "Do you hear that?" We all froze. A whisper. It was faint, almost like wind slipping through cracks, but it carried a rhythm, words spoken just beneath the threshold of comprehension. "It's probably just the building settling," I muttered. But my words felt empty, even to me. We pressed on. Every step echoed unnaturally. Like the walls were amplifying the sound of our movements. Then, at the end of the hallway, we saw a door slightly ajar. A doctor's office. Inside, a wooden desk sat covered in dust, old patient files scattered across its surface. The leather chair behind it was torn, the stuffing spilling out like entrails. Valeria picked up a file and read aloud, "Patient, 007. Diagnosis, schizophrenia. Symptoms include auditory hallucinations, persistent belief that the voices are real." Her voice trailed off. Andres adjusted the camera. "Let's film this." Then, a loud bang echoed down the hall. We spun around. The door we had left open had slammed shut on its own. Sofia let out a shaky breath. That's just the wind, right?" I nodded, but my hands were clammy. And then, we heard it again. The whispering. Only this time, it wasn't distant. It was right behind us. The whispering slithered through the air, curling around us like an invisible fog. It wasn't a single voice, it was a chorus. Some murmured in soft, unintelligible tones, while others hissed words we couldn't quite understand. Sofia backed against the desk, her breath coming in short gasps. Andres gripped the camera so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Did you get that?" I asked, my own voice barely above a whisper. Andres nodded. "Yeah, and it's not feedback. It's real." The door that had slammed shut creaked open on its own. A long, drawn-out wail of rusted hinges echoed through the office. I swallowed hard and forced myself to step forward. The hallway beyond was shrouded in darkness, deeper than before, as if the building itself had swallowed what little light remained. "We need to keep moving," Valeria said, though her voice lacked conviction. We stepped back into the corridor. The temperature had dropped. I could see my breath fog in front of me, each exhale punctuating the eerie silence. Then, footsteps. Not ours. They came from above. Slow, deliberate, dragging against the decayed floorboards. "The second floor," Sophia whispered. "No way," Andres muttered. "We are not going up there." But something was pulling us forward, deeper into the hospital. A sickening curiosity. Maybe it was the whispers. Maybe it was something else. We found a staircase at the end of the hall. The wooden steps groaned under our weight as we ascended. The air smelled even worse up here, like rot, mildew, and something coppery. The second floor was worse than the first. The walls had deep scratch marks, as if someone, or something, had tried to claw their way out. And then we saw it. At the far end of the corridor stood a figure. A patient gown, torn and stained. Bare feet. A head tilted at an unnatural angle. It stood motionless, facing us. Sophia clutched my arm. "Oh my God," she choked. I couldn't breathe. My legs refused to move. Then, the figure twitched. A sharp, jerking motion, its head snapping from one side to the other, too fast to be human. Andres raised the camera, but the second. The lens focused, the lights flickered violently, and the figure vanished. Valeria let out a sharp gasp. "It's playing with us," she whispered. That was when the whispers returned. Louder. Closer. Surrounding us. They spoke in our voices. I heard myself say, "You shouldn't be here." I turned to my team, but they were just as terrified as I was. Then, one whisper rose above the rest, clearer than the others. It was Valeria's voice, but Valeria hadn't spoken. And it said only two words, "Look up." I didn't want to. Every nerve in my body screamed for me not to. But my eyes lifted anyway. And there, clinging to the ceiling like a grotesque spider, was the figure. Its face inches from mine. Mouth wide open. Whispering. The figure's mouth was impossibly wide, as if unhinged, and inside that gaping void, I saw nothing but darkness, deep, endless, hungry. Its lips barely moved, yet the whispers poured out, filling the air, wrapping around me like invisible hands pressing against my throat. I wanted to scream. My body refused to move. My mind refused to accept what I was seeing. Then it dropped. A blur of rotting flesh and tattered fabric, falling straight toward me. A hand grabbed my wrist and yanked me backward. The moment I hit the ground, the lights exploded, bathing the corridor in a blinding white flash. And then, silence. When my vision cleared, the figure was gone. Sophia knelt beside me, her hands trembling. "Matthias. Are you okay?" I couldn't answer. My heart was slamming against my ribs, my lungs refusing to take in enough air. Andres was still filming, but his face was pale, his expression one of pure shock. "It was real," he murmured. "That thing was real." Valeria helped me up, but I barely felt her touch. My entire body was ice. "We have to leave," she said, her voice shaking. Now. She was right. But the hospital wasn't finished with us yet. As we turned to run, the whispers came back. Louder. closer. All around us. They weren't just sounds anymore. They were inside our heads. I heard my own voice whisper, "You'll never leave." I felt something brushing against my neck, cold, damp fingers tracing my skin. And then, the hallway changed. The doors on either side of us slammed shut, one by one, trapping us in a narrowing path. The peeling paint regrew, turning the walls pristine white. The broken floor healed itself, linoleum shining under flickering fluorescent lights. The hospital was resetting. But we weren't in the present anymore. A scream rang out. A real scream. Human. Down the hallway, a door burst open, and a man in a straitjacket stumbled forward. His eyes were wild with terror, his mouth foaming. Behind him, 2 orderlies chased him down, grabbing his arms, slamming him to the ground. "Help me," he shrieked. "Please, don't let them take me." We froze. "This isn't real," Sophia whispered. "It's a memory." The orderlies dragged the man back into the room, his screams cutting off abruptly as the door shut behind them. And then, as quickly as it had changed, the hospital decayed again. The floors cracked. The lights flickered out. The air turned heavy with the stench of blood and death. We were back in the ruins. "It's showing us what happened here," Valeria whispered. Andres cursed under his breath. "We need to get to the exit. Now." We ran. But the hospital wasn't going to let us go that easily. The whispers grew louder, now a chorus of screams, moans, frantic pleas. Something slammed against the doors as we passed, something inside the rooms, something desperate to get out. We reached the stairwell. The exit was just below. And then, a shadow moved at the bottom of the stairs. Not a figure. Not a person. A shadow, crawling up toward us, shifting, stretching, pulling itself forward with limbs that didn't exist. The whispers poured out of it, thousands of voices screaming in agony. Sophia grabbed my arm. "It's coming." The walls shuddered. The whispers turned into laughter. And then the stairs collapsed beneath us. We fell. Into darkness. We plunged into the abyss. The fall wasn't instant, it was slow, like sinking into a pit of tar. The air around us felt thick, suffocating, pulling us down. The whispers screamed now, a deafening cacophony of tortured voices, overlapping, colliding, shattering inside my skull. And then, we hit the floor. The impact sent pain shooting through my body. I gasped, struggling to get air into my lungs. Somewhere in the darkness, I heard Sophia groaning, Andres cursing, Valeria sobbing. The floor beneath us was wet. I lifted my hand. My fingers came away sticky. Red. Blood. The realization made my stomach twist. We weren't alone. Shapes stirred in the shadows, bodies, hundreds of them, piled against the walls, slumped in corners, limbs tangled together like discarded marionettes. They were patients. Their hospital gowns rotting, their skin paper-thin and stretched, their eyes black voids staring at nothing. And yet, their lips moved. They were whispering. I scrambled backward, my hands slipping in the pool of blood beneath me. We have to get out," Andres gasped, clutching his camera like a lifeline. Valeria pointed at something ahead, a door, barely visible through the darkness. "Run," she whispered. "Now." We bolted. The moment we moved, the bodies stirred. Heads turned, necks cracked, hands twitched. The whispers rose, turning into wails of agony. And then, they started to crawl toward us. Their movements were unnatural, jerking, inhuman. Their fingers scraped against the floor, leaving trails of blood. And behind them, the shadow was coming. A mass of darkness, writhing, shifting, growing, its whispers merging into one horrible, endless scream. The door was feet away. Andres reached it first, slamming his shoulder against it. Locked. No, 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 he shouted, kicking at the wood. The bodies were getting closer. The shadow was rising, tendrils of darkness stretching toward us. The whispers became words. Stay. With us. Forever. I grabbed a rusted metal pole from the floor and swung it at the door with everything I had. The wood splintered. Again. Again. And then, the door gave way. We stumbled through, slamming it shut behind us. Darkness. Silence. For a moment, I thought we had escaped. But then. A single whisper. Right behind me. You can't leave. I turned, but there was nothing there. The hospital was empty. The air was still. The bodies, gone. The whispers, gone. And when we opened the final door, we were outside. The night air hit us like ice. The hospital loomed behind us, silent, watching. We ran. We never looked back. The aftermath. We never spoke of what happened inside San Rafael. Andres deleted the footage. Valeria refused to talk about it. Sofia stopped investigating the paranormal altogether. But me? I still hear the whispers. At night, when everything is quiet, when I'm alone in my apartment. They find me. Soft, familiar. Right behind my ear. You left us. But we never left you. End of the Whispering Hospital.